Shang, Gaoxing, Xi Yang, Zhanghu, Kwaja, Chuxi, Xi Jinping.
Uy, hindi ikaw si Sarah. Malilate na tayo sa flight natin sa China.
Sige, tara na.
Tara na.
Come on, Dora! All right! Let's go! Dora, 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 the explorer! Dora! Boots and super cool exploradora! Need your help! Grab your backpack! Let's go! Jump in! Vámonos! You can lead the way! Hey! Hey! You know
Join the Explorer!
Featuring Lawrence.
As you may be wondering, we will be talking about the sleeping giant of Asia,
None other than
China!
Specifically, we will have a thorough discussion of the country's language program and policies before heading to comparing and contrasting it to our own country's language programs and policies as well here in the Philippines. Let's go!
So now, I'll be giving a background about China, or People's Republic of China. It is a country of East Asia, and it is the largest of all Asian countries, as well as the most populous country in the world with more than 1.4 billion population. That with distinctly diverse community in China, it is a unified, multi-ethnic country which consists of 23 provinces, 4 municipalities, 5 autonomous regions, and 2 special administrative regions, namely Hong Kong and Macau. China is home to 56 ethnic groups, all who played a critical role in the development of the various languages spoken in the country. So, linguists believe that there are 279 living languages in China today that are geographically defined. However, Chinese Mandarin is the most popular language with over 955 million speakers out of the 1.21 billion people in China, and it is the most widely spoken native language in the world. In fact, Mandarin itself is one of the major Chinese dialects. So Mandarin is also known as Putonghua, which means a common speech and is defined as modernized form of Mandarin, which borrows from several sub-dialects of Mandarin and has been painstakingly developed by the People's Republic of China since the 1950s. And linguists have split Chinese in somewhere between 7 and 10 main language groups, Mandarin being the largest, also known as Northern. We have Wu, Min, and Ge, and each group also has a number of sub-dialects. So that are just basic information that you have to know about the language of China. And now you are heading towards your next station, and they are going to discuss to you the language programs here in China.
Here are the language programs in China. First, the station and the reform of the educational structure, a decree issued in 1985 by the Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party, formalized a year later by the National People's Congress with the ratification of the Compulsory Education Law. Second, the language of instruction. Language of instruction in elementary and secondary schools is Mandarin, the main language of China. In some regions where the majority of students are ethnic minorities, the instruction is offered both Mandarin and the dominant local language. Higher education of the language of instruction is predominantly Mandarin, although English taught programs and courses are becoming increasingly common in attempt to internationalize China's higher education system. Third, compulsory education, elementary and lower secondary school. Guidelines for compulsory education curriculum reforms, the foreign language taught, English also offer Japanese or Russian and the option of learning a second language. The current curriculum follows the Ministry's guidelines for compulsory education collective reforms implemented nationwide in 2005. Provinces will adopt one of two models referred to as 3+3 and 3+1+2. This includes learning in the field of language and literature, which is a mandatory Chinese language and a foreign one. Fourth, China's obsession with learning English. English proficiency improves students' chances for university admissions worldwide and enhances their prospects for career advancement, particularly against the backdrop of China's rise as global economic power. Many Chinese children start learning English as early as kindergarten, while private, for-profit English language teaching, or ELT, schools have sprung up all over the country. In higher education, the English craze manifests itself in universities requiring IELTS students to 4-year programs to complete 60 credits in English, about 10% of typical bachelor's degree curriculum.
Most important details. Thank you.
Bye. Share.
Have you already discussed the language programs in China?
Yes.
So as we are going to discuss the language policies in China. The language policies in China. The language structure or the corpus policies of China's language are the linguistic features and applications of the Chinese language. So the Chinese language and their dialects are characterized linguistically as isolating or analytically enough words units do not change due to inflection. The first one is the phonological structure of Chinese. Syllables is subject to strict limitations. In Mandarin, for example, it may have anywhere from a single vowel to up to 5 phonemes. The smallest unit of sound and the end either a vowel, ng, or r. With all these restrictions, the numbers of possible syllables in Chinese has clear maximum limit. So the second one is there are a total of 1,277 different syllables in Mandarin, including the tonal variants, and 261 of these possible pronunciations corresponds to only one word each. So the number goes down to around 400 different syllables if tones distinctly are until. The third one is the Chinese language family over less than 2,000 years for single morpheme words to develop into compounds of 2 or more morphemes. Now this has reduced ambiguity and enriched the language. So fourth is grammatically the Chinese language display a basic subject-verb object word as does English languages have proposed the topic common syntactic model as more appropriate one for Chinese, where a topic is introduced and then some comment is made on it. So the fifth one is classifiers or mission words. These are the notable features of modern Chinese and most Tibetan or Southeast Asian language. So it measures words comparable to peas and a piece of tea and sheets and a sheet of paper in English. So those are required for all nouns in Mandarin when preceded by a number of demonstrative pronouns. So the next one is traditional Chinese grammarians only divided the words in their language into two categories. So the first one is substantial or meaningful words and functional or empty. This sparse distinction may reflect the fact that even today, many words in the Chinese language family cannot be definitely classified as noun, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and so forth, except as they are used in specific contexts. So now the next one is the language in education policies. So the next one is the language in education policies. So under it, it is the overture to the bilingual education for China's ethnic minorities. So the bilingual education for minorities in China has always been closely linked held by the government. So these Chinese scholars have argued that bilingual education advances learning among minority students. However, schools attempting to apply teaching are faced with many problems, notably for the curriculum, textbooks, published training, and instructional adjustments. So even greater problems lie within society, minorities still suffer discrimination and bias. Therefore, a law protecting the bilingual education in China's ethnic minorities be applied to circulated at all school levels to broaden the China's bilingual education. So the next one is the language education in China, the policy and experience from 1949. So the policy and experience from 1949 are unprecedented as comprehensive study of the multilingual circumstances in China. So it takes policies, changes in the learning of Chinese for language and minority ethnic. So the language in China, since the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949, that based on the survey and interview data, the experience of different cohorts of learners are presented as windows to the realities of language education implementation over the last half year. That's also, I hope you learned something or you gathered or jot down notes the language education policies in China.
Hope you learned from the previous information. So now we're going to talk about the status or social standing policies. Language policy in the People's Republic of China. Inside policy, practitioners review their own project involvements and inside politics, pondering our mistakes, undergoing soul searching and theorizing their personal experiences. Third, we have scholars of minority origin give inside views of policy implementation and challenges in their book communities. The volume sheds light on the complexity of language policy making and implementation as well as on the politics and ideology of language in contemporary China. We have contemporary language and script reform in China. The chief goals of language planning in China are given as to standardize and promote Mandarin Chinese or Putonghua as the common spoken language of the People's Republic of China or PRC. To develop and promote a clear speech writing style which is bilingual, vernacularly spoken language with which to replace the more classical language style when young men, traditional use in China. To design and promote a system of phonetic symbols with which to accurately and efficiently express standardized modern spoken Chinese. To simplify the forms of Chinese characters, to design and improve writing system of the language of China's many ethnic minorities. Multilingualism in China, the present volume is particularly noteworthy for the clarity with which it lays bare both the linguistic issues in such choice and the massive non-linguistic and plurilinguistic factors often including traditional religious influences that are very extensively ultimately mold, shape and rectify it. Law of the People's Republic of China on the standard, spoken and written Chinese language. The language policy embodied in the language law is to promote Putonghua and implement standard Chinese characters.
That's so amazing.
True.
Now it's time for us to compare and contrast the language programs and policies that they have here in China versus what we have in the Philippines. So, in terms of language programs, They are common in a way that they give emphasis on their national language and that they preserve the essence of their cultural languages and their dialects.
We can cite it through the forms particularly made by Spolsky that reflects the status and programs that must be enacted by schools to reinforce the Putonghua or the Chinese Mandarin, their language of instruction, to several subjects. Whilst there in the Philippines, we have it instituted by the legal procedures under the law, even prescribed and supported by political and law commanders like the renewed bilingual education program. In the present, however, the difference between the programs of these two different countries also lies in that we have there in the Philippines. In the Philippines is more clearer and broader than they have here in China. Maybe because they prioritize only on one or few language, perhaps in their educational language programs. But I myself isn't sure because as to our research or as we have experienced here in China, we can find that given the fact that we don't have a precise basis, right? That's why we're not sure about it. But nevertheless, how about in terms of their language policies? Well, the language policies in these two different countries are related in a way that they iterate strategies to further the maintenance of their national language. They both assert standards and parameters that reveals the way how their language is appropriately used, either verbally or non-verbal. However, they differ in so many ways that you could imagine. Their language programs, particularly in the way it is instituted and transmitted to education posts like schools and universities, they vary in their format, but the rules are still there. They also vary in restrictions, like for instance, here or there in the Philippines, we have the bilingual education policy or the BEP, which asserts the allocation of English language to specified subject fields. While here in China, it is detailed that only emphasizes one language, their national language, the modern Mandarin.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah. But however, just like the programs. That is all.
So it's so wonderful, no?
Right.